If you've ever played Roblox, there's a chance you've played a Roblox Tycoon. They are a staple on the site, and there are thousands upon thousands to pick from. I can't be the only one who is so strongly drawn to the mechanics of these tycoons. Whether it's the simplicity, the compounding gains of collecting money and gaining more and more droppers, or something else entirely, I just can't get enough of the weirdly addicting world of Roblox Tycoons. Hey y'all, my name is Barlex, and in this video we will look into some of the first tycoons ever created, mechanics that can make a tycoon great, boring, or overwhelming, and my personal favorite tycoons I've ever played. But first, we have to lay down a definition. This is a pretty hot topic I've seen discussed, but for the purposes of this video, we are going to operationally define a Roblox Tycoon as a game that utilizes passive ways to earn money, whether through droppers or other methods that require little to no intervention, as you build from nothing or next to nothing to riches and acclaim. Simulation games are often misclassified as tycoon games, and the naming of experiences on Roblox can label many simulation games as tycoons when they don't really fit the bill we are looking for. For that reason, something like Lumber Tycoon 2 and other games with similar mechanics will not be covered in this video, as it is far more of a simulator than a tycoon. With that out of the way, we need to travel back in time to the year 2008. Bread Factory Tycoon was the first tycoon game on Roblox and established the core mechanics we see in games today. Now, the original version of this no longer exists, but we luckily have a one-to-one port that was released the same year, so we aren't missing out on history here. It was really cool to sit down and play this one all the way through because you can certainly see where the influences of everything else come from. You start by becoming the owner of a bakery, and your building has a conveyor belt leading to a truck. With the few dollars you have, you buy flour and send it to be mixed with water, and then it gets dropped in the conveyor belt and head to the roof and then to the truck. As you collect more money, you can choose between multiple upgrades. The first thing I did was automate my flour purchases. Then you can further automate things by baking your bread, speeding up flour production even more, adding chocolate on top of your bread, and even the ever-elusive Fuzzy Nuts machine. Not only did this lay the groundwork for your standard tycoon game loop with droppers putting things on a track, but the various ways your bread was changed acted like upgraders in most common tycoons today. But unlike most of this game's descendants, the original Tycoon had every upgrader physically change the bread as it passed through, showing what the upgrade did outside of just an increase in dollar signs. I really love that aspect, and wish more modern Tycoons did something like this, because if it could be done in 2008, it can almost certainly be done 20 years later. There are a few buttons you can purchase that are not related to bread production. There's one for roof access, which helps you get up top without having to ride the conveyor. There were some other small aesthetic upgrades that you could add, like a fancy office, a fountain, and a super bread statue, but I didn't stay long enough to get to the next two because they were quite expensive. Overall, this game held up surprisingly well in 2026, and I was impressed by how many mechanics in it not only innovated but almost perfected on the first Tycoon around. There was even a second role outside of a bread factory owner in this tycoon where you could be a repairman and you could go fix other people's factories if you wanted to sabotage or if things just got broken in the time being. I'm shocked that I don't see droppers costing money to produce or purchase a resource in more tycoons, and the physical changes to your product as it goes down and gets upgraded makes for an inventive, really nice touch to cap off our dive into the world of Roblox Tycoons. Moving on to the following year of 2009, we have Crazy Golf Tycoon. This tycoon is simpler in its money generation, and it's far slower to progress. My little brother and I spent almost 2 hours in this tycoon, splitting what we bought in half to see the majority of what the tycoon to offer, and we still didn't buy everything. In terms of money generation, you literally just have one dropper. As you get more money, you can buy things around your crazy golf course or buy upgrades. I started seeing diminishing returns around upgrade 15, and it had been quite a long time since logging in, so I tried to buy upgrades around the course. First things first, we couldn't get to each other's tycoons, so I tried getting this stand to see if it established a bridge or...
What is that? What is that supposed to be?
I was quickly reminded that this was a 17-year-old tycoon, and sometimes when you buy something, it's just a collection of ketchup and mustard bottles. The Crazy Golf itself, especially for 2009 standards, was fun and engaging. I really don't have much else to say about this. It's a fun, albeit very surface level and slow, Tycoon. I thoroughly enjoyed the physics, and it is a really neat glimpse into the Roblox I first played whenever my older cousin showed me some original Roblox in the summer of 2007. When you think of Roblox as it first existed, these first two Tycoons really give you that time capsule look into how the assets and atmosphere looked for everything else back then. What I consider to be the epitome of a great Tycoon, and possibly the single greatest example of a classic Tycoon of all time, is Star Wars Tycoon. In this Tycoon, you start with your click-activated dropper of kyber crystals, a staple of the Tycoon world. As you gain more money, you can purchase more kyber crystal droppers or upgraders that increase the value of each item that passes through the upgrader's beam. What I find so endearing about this Tycoon is that the oversaturation of decorations that permeates other Tycoons really doesn't exist here. The things you spend your money on are droppers, upgraders, or upgrades to your building that ultimately allow you more room for droppers. You can also purchase characters, which, unlike standard skins in Tycoon-type games, give you the full outfit as well as the weapons and sometimes abilities of the characters. Unfortunately, this Tycoon is almost always empty every time I've checked in on it. While there are many other Tycoons on this list, and certainly more classic Roblox Tycoons or more advanced Roblox Tycoons than this, the fact that the formula is so pure here makes me select this as the first of the complete Tycoons to cover. You have droppers, build additional floors for more droppers, get the glowing cubes as the majority of your sources of income, and all fight in the middle of the map. One minor detail I've always loved about this Tycoon and really haven't seen in many others, or any places for that matter, is the fact that there are droppers that drop fully detailed helmets, droid parts, and other things that make you feel like you're in some weird factory producing all things Star Wars. If you haven't played this, please do yourself a favor and check it out. I've loved this Tycoon ever since I first played it in 2016, and it still stands out as my personal favorite Tycoon of all time. Sticking with the galaxy far, far away, let's talk about Death Star Tycoon. This is a shockingly well-made Tycoon, innovating in some ways while keeping some familiarity to the genre. You start in a central area where you earn income from upgrading a core. This mechanic is not very common in Tycoons, but we've already seen it before in Crazy Golf Tycoon. After getting enough money to expand, there's a whole room inside the Death Star full of droppers, and it utilizes the space really well. There's a major focus on using your funds to fully build the Death Star, which is an expensive and long endeavor. Luckily, you can fly ships around and attack other Death Stars after building the hangar, or you can teleport to an enclosed area in the middle of the map. One funny thing happened to me though, the night before I got all of this gameplay captured, and it was the moment I decided to create this video in the first place. My youngest brother and I were playing Death Star Tycoon, and I hear a TIE fighter flying toward my base. When I look out at my open throne room, a walking, literal job application came out and attacked me. I busted out laughing and then immediately opened OBS. He just kept coming back, and no one would believe me if I said I got attacked by a job application in Roblox. Uh-oh. There he is! There he is! He's flying! He's flying in!
He's going after Kronos.
Oh, no, he's...
Oh, he's not.
He's...
I'm going after him. I'm going after him. Oh shoot. No, he got me.
Yes, I defeated him! Oh my god, I just got footage of me defeating him.
Unemployment final boss.
It was. For context, this recording was late at night on March 18th of this year during my final semester of graduate school. I had actively been applying to and looking for jobs since January. It's the middle of June, and I still have yet to find one, and I think this job application cursed me in some way, shape, or form. The whole thing just gave me a good laugh, and I was like, dang, whenever I get back into YouTube after I graduate, I gotta make a video on Roblox. The next morning, my brother and I played nearly 8 hours of Tycoon so that I could have gameplay for this video. I graduated back in May, and while I still don't have a job, Mr. Hubert Hunter 11 truly did have an impact on this recently out of hiatus YouTuber. We're going to take a step back and look at another classic in Superhero Tycoon. There aren't a lot of unique things about this Tycoon, but I would be remiss if I didn't include it in this video. If you find any Tycoon that exists on the platform and boil it down to its bare elements, you will find something resembling Superhero Tycoon. When I think of classic Tycoons, I think of the pathways all leading to the center, a platform to buy coils, and the circular buttons that purchase the all too familiar droppers. For its lack of features, this is still a surprisingly popular game. It's not an experience I actively seek out, but I certainly appreciate the design and the foundation it has in the Tycoon space. Blood Moon Tycoon is an interesting one. It doesn't have anything that stands out in terms of its generation, but it adds elements of PvP that I find interesting. You have zombies continually spawning, and on Blood Moons, multiple incredibly powerful types spawn as well, and their goal is to make sure you are the opposite of alive. This provides extrinsic motivation to build your base and acquire weaponry, and I like that change of pace. The zombie spawning can get old, however, and it can be unfriendly to new players who spawned in at the wrong time. Again, it's a nice change of pace where building walls and building up your base isn't really an option in this one, but it's not necessarily something I would put at the top of my list if I were to boot up a Tycoon. We're going to stick with zombies, but now we're going to talk about a couple of games I consider to be borderline Tycoons or in a separate space altogether. This is Undead Defense Tycoon, and you spawn in the middle of a base with zombies all over the place. There's a healthy variety of zombies, and successfully engaging in combat provides you with money. You can also generate passive income by upgrading your base, I think, but there are no droppers or upgrades designated to make you money. As you upgrade your base, your income does grow, but again, this isn't really what I think of whenever I hear the word Tycoon. Dam Tycoon is interesting. You manually crank a wheel until a block of water falls into a path. Then you have to push it down a path toward the dam. I didn't get very far into this experience, and maybe it got more automated or something down the line, but it felt very much like a simulator game in the early stages. I revisited Dam Tycoon while writing this script, and it remains a simulator for quite a few minutes into the experience, and falls outside the operational definition we've set for this video's purposes. Farm Life is a borderline Tycoon. It's a well-designed game, don't get me wrong, but it definitely puts its own spin on the Tycoon formula, which I can appreciate. You earn money through fields and other agricultural methods, but you also have a plethora of decorations and other things that don't have anything to do with revenue generation, which does exist in other Tycoons. The game, however, can also feel a little too linear, and the freedom you normally feel as you upgrade your Tycoon and have multiple options to go about doesn't always exist here. I can understand the game forcing you to purchase paths in a field before growing crops, and growing things in a sequential order, because most Tycoons do something similar to that. But there are some things like purchasing trash cans or decorative items as a precursor to unlocking new areas, which can impede progress and overall just feel a little frustrating as you're trying to figure out what it is exactly that you're supposed to be doing. Clone Tycoon 2 is a classic, and it fits as a prototypical military Tycoon. Not in the sense of the military Tycoons we will be talking about shortly, but by the fact that your revenue generated corresponds with successes in combat from you or your clones. That is to say, if you defeat somebody, or if your clone defeats somebody, it gives you money, which is the definition of a military Tycoon. You can also have your clones go mining, which generates some supplemental income. You can also upgrade your clones, customize their weaponry, add elemental statuses to them, and even pilot vehicles. It turns the whole game into a massive war zone in the middle, and I'm all here for it. This is a fun Tycoon. Not something I'd spend a ton of time in, but something I can appreciate for what it is. If you like combat, this Tycoon is a perfect place to start. Military Tycoon is a really fun twist on the formula, and it stands as one of my favorite experiences on Roblox to this day. You start off by building up a base, but instead of droppers, your sources of income are different buildings like greenhouses, oil refineries, and nuclear power plants. You also build barracks, hangars, and garages for an army that follows your command. As your army grows stronger, they participate in a King of the Hill style game mode, where 4 stations surround one main point of interest, and everyone's armies duke it out in the middle. Whoever holds the middle gets a bonus to their income, and it can lead to some really cool clashes. As you upgrade your troops, your chances of holding down the hill grow. You can also spend the money you've made on ordnance for airstrikes to take out enemy forces, giving you the advantage of jumping on an enemy when their forces are suddenly weakened. This Tycoon isn't the largest by any stretch of the imagination, but the use of upgrading buildings multiple times is a really nice touch, and paired with the competitive nature of that King of the Hill mode, it creates an experience that you can spend multiple hours on while still finding things to upgrade and purchase. Again, don't let the size fool you. This is a lengthy Tycoon. World War II Tycoon was something I hadn't played before recording this gameplay footage, and it was something my brother recommended to me. I was pleasantly surprised by how well made everything in here turned out to be. This is a Tycoon with a great deal of depth, so I'm going to break down things in detail here. In terms of income, you start off with your classic droppers. However, there are some other pieces outside the dropper area that provide key income. After upgrading all of these, you get the sense that things aren't complete, but you don't see anything else to do currently. After that, you can purchase weapons, upgrade your base, set up defenses, and build a garage to spawn in vehicles. Once you build the garage, the entire game changes. Not only do you have the ability to drive around the map, but you also become acutely aware of the fact that others can do the same. This is a time where you can hop in a turret atop your wall and blast incoming forces before they get inside your base, or doing something else entirely. You can utilize the garage and drive through the map, and let me tell you, it is massive. Driving around the map introduces you to some core mechanics that help with the slower progression of the droppers. You can find these crates lying around which will give boosts of cash, and you can capture command posts for additional boosts. What I find really neat here is the ability to create teams. My brother and I played Tycoons for 8 hours straight the day of this recording, and this was one of 2 times we were able to team up in a way explicitly sanctioned by the game's mechanics, so being able to share the benefits of the command posts was appreciated. A final piece of the Tycoon that made me say, now that's pretty darn cool, is the ability to raid other players' Tycoons. If you break into another player's Tycoon and start busting into a safe in the garage, you can snag loot that is proportional to the player's net worth in-game. This disincentivizes beating up on newer players while raising the pressure on players who may be more powerful. We conducted a couple of raids here, and the tension once you grabbed a bag of loot worth a few $1,000,000 was exhilarating. The cherry on top of all of this is that you don't get any of the money for yourself until you make it back to your base. I'll play a clip or two here and you can see what I'm talking about.
He's one shot.
Got him! Got him! Got him! Got him! Got him! Let's go!
Yes, fly, fly.
Get him!
Oh my gosh.
No! Once you progress in your base a bit, you can even come back and get more droppers, and they're custom made to drop ordnance and grenades, which is a really fun touch. Overall, this was a pleasant surprise, and I can definitely see myself coming back to this Tycoon. The world of Roblox has advanced so much since the days of Bread Factory Tycoon, and in our final installment of military-themed Tycoons, I wanted to showcase this with Warfare Tycoon. In Warfare Tycoon, you can... Oh my god! Dude, there are so many pop-ups. Jeez, okay, I'm logging off this one. Sometimes there can be too much going on, and this Tycoon suffers from that for me personally. I don't mind one tooltip or something, but before I get bombarded with information, I'd like to see my plot first. The final unique subset of Tycoons is the 2-player Tycoon experience. For this experience, each wizard can only purchase certain types of purchases, and they often rely on or complement each other, so coordination of purchases can help boost your growth. You can also fight other wizards, and having 2v2 fights was a fun time. Other than the 2-player aspect, this is just a fun and classic Tycoon. Don't really have much else to say on that front. To make up the caboose of this video, I want to talk about 2 Tycoons I've played that stand head and shoulders above the rest. The first one I want to talk about is Airport Tycoon, which is easily one of the best made Tycoons I've ever played, and something I consider to be the final evolution of Tycoons. Droppers and their drops are completely retooled and reskinned to make sense in the world of an airport, and there isn't one singular conveyor path for droppers. They're scattered about the Tycoon and all in areas that make sense. Checking luggage, cooks, you name it. One major gripe I have with this Tycoon, however, is that revenue generation is insanely slow. Once you get past the first room, the next revenue generation is about 15 purchases away, stagnating your growth and keeping you at the same place. The Tycoon bottlenecks you multiple times, And again, I don't mind having to expand my base to get purchases, but the gaps here are pretty severe, and even when you get there, the droppers don't do much for you in the way of boosting revenue. Also, the ratio of decorations to revenue generating purchases is almost 20-1, which means a lot of waiting. I put about 45 minutes into this Tycoon and only got to one dropper outside of the starting room. I revisited this Tycoon while writing the script for this video because it had been 2.5 months since I recorded gameplay footage, and my brother and I sat there for 8 hours straight playing Tycoons, so with this being around hour 7, my view may have been skewed due to a lack of patience caused by fatigue. After getting a couple new droppers, the generation sped up a good bit and I discovered something new. My mindset is a bit utilitarian when it comes to Tycoons. I don't really care about decorations and I'll save them for the very end whenever I really don't have much else to do with my money. What I discovered upon purchasing some more decorations around the area was that multiple droppers were hidden behind decoration pieces, but in a way that made sense. If the room doesn't have a ceiling, walls, and an escalator to get there, it makes sense that a baggage claim dropper wouldn't be feasible. Unfortunately, whole areas I thought would have droppers do not include any. The hotel and restaurant areas have purchasable chefs and check-in areas that look and feel like the animated baggage check-in and chefs in the airport, which act as revenue generations, and this lack of revenue after seeing something that looks exactly the same can be annoying or disappointing if you spend tens of millions of dollars on something you think will add a boost. On the islands, however, you can find some really cool stuff. The Pirate Island gives you some really good revenue generation and a ship spawn. The Military Island gives you ridiculous amounts of hangars with so many airplanes. There's an island called Tokyo for some reason. And finally, there's a Space Command Island. I visited another player's island and I was like, oh cool, you can fly a little space shuttle around. And then I found a teleporter and saw, oh my god, I'm on an actual space station. Like, full stop, we are in space. This Tycoon's pretty great, but it has a few hang-ups in the realm of decoration that you need to be aware of. If you aren't afraid of a longer time commitment and can wait between purchases, this game rewards you at the end with an awesome variety of planes to fly around, really fun islands, and again, a literal space station. I first played this 3 years ago with some friends and we sunk some time into this Tycoon and we enjoyed ourselves, but the wait between droppers is something to be aware of before jumping into this experience. Finally, let's talk about what I consider to be the greatest Tycoon of all time. Deep Space Tycoon. I fell in love with Deep Space Tycoon after it was released in 2018, and in the summer of 2025, Deep Space Tycoon Reborn was released. I played both, and let me tell you, this is the perfect example of what a Tycoon can be. After I found out about Reborn's release while writing the script, I hopped in to get some gameplay footage of it to find key differences, but this script got delayed by about a week, 2 weeks maybe, because I ended up playing it for nearly 3 hours without stopping. In Deep Space Tycoon, you start out on a ship that is, unsurprisingly, in deep space. You build up droppers and decorations in your ship, and then you get access to an array of teleporters across a multitude of planets. As you progress on each planet, you can come back to the ship and find new things to upgrade and new portals to unlock. One of my favorite features in the Reborn version is the advanced mining technology upgrade in your ship. It gives new droppers that not only on the ship, but also every single planet you've teleported to, giving you a real reason to go back and discover more. You can also unlock terraforming, which lets you add some crazy new features on each planet to make it look cooler or make it feel more habitable. Giving me the opportunity to return to each planet and mine more resources for large monetary gains, and to change how each planet looks is such an awesome feature, and I love how a little touch like that goes such a long way. Each planet has its own unique look to it, but what I really enjoy is how between every planet, there's a new certain way to earn income. Most of them have droppers and conveyors, but they're either positioned in ways that differentiate them, or they offer a second way to earn income that diverges from the dropper formula. There are some classic droppers scaled up to massive proportions, others are extractors from mushrooms and rivers, and others are just mining drills into the ground or in the sides of a cliff. Another new addition is the aliens that spawn on certain planets. They can pose a light threat, but with your ability to have blasters, you can take them out pretty easily. There's pretty much the same model, but with slight variations between each planet, but it gives a neat flair and adds enough of a threat that you can't mindlessly go through certain planets, which I appreciate. Another huge thing is the fact that you get a whole new ship, and this one dwarfs the ship you start out with. There aren't as many droppers on this first ship, But this one just seems like a massive monument to your accomplishments, highlighted by a hologram you build in the captain's office with every planet you've teleported to surrounding your new ship. There's also a computer station where you can upgrade your weapons, but only after collecting enough data on certain types of aliens. This incentivizes you to get out there and delve into combat, which I love it when games encourage you to engage with different parts of their systems. 2 teleporter platforms can be purchased in the captain's office, and one of them takes you to even more areas to build droppers and ore extractors. One really cool feature I want to talk about was something I didn't even know existed on this Tycoon. I was headed to my desert realm to show off the possible terraforming you can do when I was alerted that a raid was headed my way. In this, a massive group of desert aliens marched on my base, and had I not crawled up a tower to confuse the AI, they would have mopped the floor with me. After finishing it, it gave me a reward and I continued on with my gameplay. Unprompted moments like this are really neat, and again make me love this Tycoon so much. While writing the script for this section, I found myself playing Deep Space Tycoon more than writing about Deep Space Tycoon, which slowed production of this video by again at least a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks, simply because this Tycoon is so incredibly addictive. There's another feature connected to the ability to terraform planets. Terraforming isn't strictly aesthetic, and it's tied in with the game's progression. After fully terraforming a planet, you can travel to a separate area with a giant monument floating in space. Each planet and realm has its own altar, and after a successful terraform, that planet's altar will shoot a beam of light. Activate all altars, and you will have healed the core, effectively completing the game. Deep Space Tycoon takes the classic formula, turns it up to 11, and throws in neat innovations here and there for you to sink your teeth into. It is something you can play casually and knock out a planet or two, or you can really devote some time to the Tycoon and see just how far you can get. I, for one, had trouble writing this part of the script because I kept playing and just couldn't stop. When I think of a perfect Tycoon, I think of Deep Space Tycoon. Now, at the beginning of the video, I said we'd talk about mechanics that make a Tycoon great, boring, or overwhelming, and I've spent 18 pages of a script and almost 30 minutes just talking about my individual experiences with points dispersed between the gushing. So, let me lay out my points clearly here. Some mechanics that make for a great Tycoon are as follows. Gradual and reasonable progression that doesn't hit walls. Take Deep Space Tycoon and Star Wars Tycoon, for example. There's not a moment where you are stonewalled from buying a new dropper or revenue source. The scaling is understandable, and every next step in terms of purchasing that next big thing feels satisfying and attainable. The inverse of this would be something like Dam Tycoon or Airport Tycoon, where at the very beginning of Dam Tycoon you have a singular manual dropper and you don't have an idea of what's next. Even after purchasing an office, I didn't see any purchases that led to the next big step, outside of a button that would make my water more valuable, but even that was too far away. Airport Tycoon's issue comes in the vein of many long pauses to growth, or bottlenecks as I called them earlier. After you finish the first room with a baggage claim, it will take about 20 minutes of gameplay for your next dropper purchase, which does not add a significant boost to income to warrant that long of a wait. After you finish your main room, the next purchases that help with growth are either on expensive islands or on the other side of your initial island in places that make sense in terms of progression, like the hotel and restaurant on the main island, do not provide any opportunities for income growth. Another part of a great Tycoon comes from differentiation. Don't get me wrong, I love the classic droppers, and honestly I want to see them in some form in my Tycoon gameplay, but anything a developer uses to add a unique flair to the gameplay can go a long way. This can be something as small as Deep Space Tycoon having drills and other industrial machinery to complement the droppers and supplement areas where droppers wouldn't make sense, but it can also be moderate changes like Bread Factory Tycoon changing the bread every time it goes through an upgrader, or Star Wars Tycoon dropping helmets and droid parts. Or it can be something as substantial as Airport Tycoon having its droppers be custom coded into baggage claims, chefs, pirates for mining gems, and bank workers in Tokyo. A final aspect that makes a Tycoon great is the ability to add additional gameplay elements in a way that fits the game's purpose and doesn't take away from it. Good examples of this are Clone Tycoon 2 and Military Tycoon's combat in the middle of the map, ultimately contributing to income and showing signs of growth and status for your own Tycoon. When you finally get enough money in Airport Tycoon, you can fly airplanes around the map and land at airports, keeping the in-game and side activities closely aligned with the central theme of the Tycoon. Deep Space Tycoon Reborn has a great mechanic, where upon fighting aliens, you gain additional information that lets you upgrade and augment your equipment, and its raids are engaging and will leave you entertained without realizing the time that you spent playing it. There are more ways I can count to make a Tycoon boring, but they ultimately boil down to taking away from, distracting from, or impeding progress toward the main goal of the Tycoon. If a Tycoon inundates you with mechanics that overcrowd the game, negate focus on growing the Tycoon, or stonewall progress, it likely won't be an enjoyable experience. A Tycoon is a type of game where you do nothing except want to see the number on the screen go larger, and to do so quicker with every increment of progress you get. If that's not happening, you could run into some spells of boredom. The last one's pretty easy to avoid, but if you want to overwhelm a player, throw a wall of text in front of them with dozens of sound effects playing over an already loud soundtrack and pop-ups of multiple alerts layering on top of each other. Wrapping things up, I just really love Tycoons, man. When they are done well, it's hard to beat the satisfaction this gameplay brings. From the years I first started playing Roblox, to nearly 20 years later, one or a handful of good Tycoons can make for quite an enjoyable evening. If you've never played a Roblox Tycoon, haven't played one in a while, or haven't played some of the ones I've listed in my video, my recommendations are as follows. Star Wars Tycoon for a pure, classic Tycoon experience with awesome atmosphere and great custom assets. Military Tycoon if you want a unique spin on the Tycoon formula and the satisfaction of taking over the map. And finally, Deep Space Tycoon Reborn for a multi-hour journey through planets that warrant multiple trips to explore everything fully, followed by a clear end goal to pursue. What do you think? What Tycoons did I miss that you enjoy? What are some of your favorites to play? Do you think my definition of a Tycoon is too restrictive? Let me know in the comments below. If you've made it this far in the video, I really appreciate you sticking around for the ride. My name is Barlex, and I've been away from YouTube for quite some time as I wrapped up graduate school, but I'm back now. Expect deep dives into games or topics that interest me every month or so, or maybe sooner. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, go ahead and hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for what's next, and hit the like button to tell YouTube this video was worth your time so they can recommend it to other people. Thank you so much for watching this video. That just about does it for now, so until next time, y'all take care.